What's up guys, welcome back to Bass Fishing Declassified. In this video, we're gonna have 5 anglers from 5 different regions of the country sharing their top bait for February bass fishing. Let's get into it. Really quick, I'm going to announce the winner of this week's Bridgeford Beef Jerky giveaway. Every week, Bridgeford gives away a full case, that's 12 packs of Bridgeford Beef Jerky, to a commenter on our Monday videos. If you don't want to miss upcoming Bridgeford Beef Jerky giveaways, make sure to subscribe to the Bass Fishing Declassified YouTube channel to see our Monday videos and enter in for a chance to win. This week's winner is on the screen here. If you're the winner, email us at info@fishthemoment.com with your username and also your mailing address, and we'll have Bridgeford send you a free case of beef jerky straight to your house. Huge shout out to Bridgeford for being the main sponsor of the Bass Fishing Declassified YouTube channel and for doing a giveaway every single week to let you guys try their great product. It's a great snack for the lake, and you can pick up Bridgeford Beef Jerky at your local Walmarts, gas stations, or dollar stores. Now back to the video.
Hey guys, Kyle Cordion here. Real quick, my favorite bait to throw in the month of January is a jerkbait. It's one of my favorite baits to throw all year long, but it's no secret. For years and years and years before we had forward-facing technology, jerkbaits were the best bait to throw when it was cold, and there's a reason for that. It catches a lot of fish in the cold, so for me, it's one of my favorite baits all year, but more importantly, it's one of my favorite baits, #1 bait in January and February when it's cold. The fish are suspended, the bait is lethargic, so the bait is slow. So you need something that looks realistic when it does move, but it's still slow. And that's what a jerkbait does. It is perfect. I love throwing a mega bass, but there's something that just got released that I've been waiting for a long time. If you guys have been throwing jerkbaits for a while, then you're familiar with the Smithwick Pro Rogue. And this is the special one. This is the blue chrome, orange belly. These went out for a long time. You couldn't find these anywhere, and now they're back at the Smithwick. I'm super excited about this. This is a suspending jerkbait if you're not familiar with the Smithwick Pro Rogue, but it's a suspending jerkbait. It goes 0 to 6 foot. It has a very reliable reaction and wobble. You really can't get this thing lost and out of control too much. It catches a ton of fish. It's a bigger profile of a jerkbait, and it just catches big uns. And so in the month of January, check these out. You can get them over at lurenet.com. And I give you a coupon code, Cordiana15, you get 15% off. I don't know how much longer these are gonna be. Jason Christie, this is one of his favorites. It's one of my favorites. I'm really excited that they came back with these. Now, what kind of stuff am I looking for when I'm gonna throw the Smithwick Pro Rogue or any other jerkbait in the month of January, February? Typically, I like fishing boulders and I like fishing docks. I like fishing stuff that is close to the bank that has a lot of depth to it. So a lot of times your docks are sitting there and they have a lot of good water underneath them. These fish are suspending, the bait's suspending. So big rocks, bluff walls, docks, those are the things I'm looking for when I'm throwing the jerkbait. Also, standing timber is a real big thing. Fish will really relate to standing timber in the cold months, but they're suspended, they're up high. So you can fish really deep water and call fish up or find fish that are suspended high in the column in the winter months. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So when you're throwing a jerkbait in the month of January or February, keep in mind, it's cold. I'm throwing this on a 7-foot medium action. This is a Kistler Helium. I got it on a 7.3 to 1 Kistler Series 1 reel. I got 10-pound Seaguar VizX fluorocarbon on that. It's a great bait to throw in the winter months. Get it out there, catch a bunch of fish, and check out the Smithwick Pro Rogue. Guys, they haven't seen this in a long time, and anytime you can present bass with a bait they ain't seen in a long time, it typically catches a bunch of fish.
My top February bait is a staple in spring bass fishing that doesn't get talked about that much anymore, but I'm sure a lot of guys still throw it, and that is the Carolina rig. Carolina rig is absolutely deadly in the springtime when bass are getting ready to spawn and are in that early pre-spawn all the way up to the spawning phase of their springtime patterns. You're going to be able to catch fish in all water clarities, all types of lakes on the Carolina rig, making it one of the most versatile techniques out there. And I catch bass in February in as shallow as 2 feet of water on the Carolina rig and as deep as 40 feet of water. So if you want an all-around great technique for putting fish in the boat of all species, spotted bass, largemouth, and smallmouth bass, the Carolina rig is the way to go. So let me walk you through my basic Carolina rig setup. In any Carolina rig, you're going to have very similar components. You'll have a heavy weight, a bead, a brass stopper, and then a barrel swivel. You can pretty much go with any brand for any of these. I'll link the ones I use down in the description below. The main key is you want to have a pretty heavy Carolina rig weight. This is the Jewel Rock Carolina rig weight, and I'll go as heavy as a 1 ounce, but I won't go any lighter than a 3/4 ounce. I like to make sure I keep that bait down the bottom and get good bottom contact with that Carolina rig. And even if I'm fishing in 1 to 2 foot of water, I'll still have that 3/4 ounce weight. So 3/4 ounce to 1 ounce Carolina rig weight, and then any bead and brass stopper you want. And then I'm gonna be tying my 2 lines together here to the barrel swivel. I'm gonna have my main line that's coming from my fishing pole, which is gonna be 20-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon. Now I'm going to have my leader line here, and my leader with my Carolina rig over here to my bait is going to be about 2 to 3 feet long. I don't like to go super long leaders, 4 to 5 foot leaders like some guys do, but a 2 to 3 foot leader is perfect. And I'm gonna have 12-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon as my leader line. Sometimes if I really want the bait to float, I'll go to 12-pound Sunline monofilament, but for this setup, I just have it on fluorocarbon. Not that big of a deal either way. It does make a small difference, but it really doesn't bother me either way which one I use. Connected to the leader line on my swivel, I'm going to be using a 3/0 Gamakatsu round bend worm hook, and I'm going to put my Carolina rig bait of choice for the day. One of the common baits I used to throw a lot was a baby brush hog from Zoom, but I've been experimenting with some new baits to try to kind of mix it up a little bit. And one bait I've really liked recently is this 4.25 inch Big Bite Baits Kamikaze split tail creature style bait. It's kind of like an old spinnerbait trailer, but it has a flat bottom, and it is kind of has this gliding action in the water that I like a lot. You'll notice the hook is kind of big for this bait, and you could drop down like a 2/0 hook if you really wanted to, but I actually don't mind that big hook with that small profile bait. But another bait that I've also been throwing quite a bit with some good success is this Jackal Eye Shad 3.8 inch little straight tail swim bait. It has a flat bottom to it, which allows it to glide as well as you're working that bait along with the Carolina rig. And the idea with the Carolina rig obviously is your weight's going to be on the bottom, the bait's going to be higher up, and as you pull it, the bait's going to kind of rise up. So a flatter bottom bait like that Kamikaze split tail or that Jackal Eye Shad will give it a little bit more of a glide, which I really, really like. For my equipment, I'm gonna be pairing that in the Denali Covert Light 7'6" heavy power fast action worm and jig rod. And I'll be, again, using 20-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon for my main line on my reel, and just an Abu Garcia Black Max for the reel. And that's really all I use for my Carolina rig setup. You can switch up the components a little bit if you want to, change the leader size, change the baits. It's pretty customizable, but at least that's what I use. And again, it's all linked down in the description below. Now that I've shared my equipment for the Carolina rig, I'm about to let you in on a secret that's probably going to make a couple guys upset, because it is a deadly way to fish this Carolina rig that's not very well known, and that's to fish your Carolina rig uphill. What we mean by fishing it uphill is basically positioning your boat so that your boat is on the bank and then casting out into deeper water away out in the middle of the lake, basically as if you're fishing from the shoreline. In my boat, I will literally put my trolling motor in the rocks up on the bank to hold my boat up against the shoreline, then bomb a cast out over secondary points, a flat, anything like that, into deeper water. My bait will then land in, let's say, 30 or 40 feet of water, and I'll drag the Carolina rig up the slope from 30 feet of water up to 5, 10 feet of water. Something about fishing that Carolina rig uphill in February will generate 2 to 3 times the bites. I'm not even joking. And there are times when I will only get a certain group of fish to fire on the Carolina rig if I'm fishing it uphill, versus if I put the boat out in deeper water and cast it up shallow, they won't bite at all. So if you're finding a spot, let's say it's an offshore brush pile, a rock pile, or just a point that has some stumps around it the bass are staging around, make sure you put your boat up against the shoreline. You kind of have to navigate sometimes so you don't go right over the top of the fish with your trolling motor. You may have to take a big loop around, but set your boat up as shallow as you can. I mean, your boat is going to be in 1 to 2 foot of water right up against the bank. Fire that Carolina rig into deeper water and drag it uphill, and you're going to catch a lot more fish on the old ball and chain this February. Now it's the next bait.
All right, everybody, so it's February, and this time of year, I've got one bait that I absolutely will always have tied on during this February, March time period, and that is a lipless crankbait. This baby right here, this category of lures just absolutely crushes it, and I think the attraction is a combination of the tight wobble and the fact that it makes a lot of noise. Okay, so this one right here only has 2 rattles in it, but a lot of different versions have a bunch of different rattles in them, so they really create a ton of rattling noise, which I think kind of expands the fish's strike zone this time of year. It gets them to go investigate. But overall, lipless crankbaits are really, really good because they're extremely versatile. So I can fish them a number of different ways. So I can fish them, out deep with a yo-yo type strategy, or I can fish them up shallow, which is generally what I'm doing on the Tennessee River. So if I'm fishing the TVA like Lake Chickamauga or Lake Guntersville, I'm generally fishing probably 5 foot or less. Okay, so I'm gonna be making long fan casts on grass flats, fishing around the last remaining grass of the season, whether it's milfoil, hydrilla, or eelgrass, and just covering water. Sometimes I'll use just a straight retrieve, find the exact speed that the fish tend to like, or a lot of times this time of year, I'll make contact with the grass with a straight retrieve, then rip it out of the grass, and then let it fall for a second before starting the retrieve over again. So you're using kind of a stop and go retrieve versus just reeling it back in. Now, as far as the tackle that I'm gonna use, I'm a little bit different than other people as far as the tackle that I like, especially the rod. So a lot of people like to use a cranking rod or a composite rod for their lipless crankbait fishing. I'm a little bit different. I actually like to use the same rod I use for my chatterbaits, my spinner baits, and a lot of my other baits that I'm fishing around grass. I like to use a full graphite 7.3 medium heavy rod. So this is the 7.3 medium heavy Versa from Fitzgerald. The reason why I like a graphite rod and a medium heavy is I actually like that faster action. So I like the faster action for the feel and also being able to rip grass off of the hooks on this. Okay, so I like having that faster action and that bit more backbone. So I can actually rip it through grass and also get really good hook sets in these fish that, honestly, this time of year, they've got harder mouths, tougher mouths than they do during, the rest of the season, the warmer months. But yeah, I like to use a 7.3 medium heavy. That is my absolute favorite. I feel more confident with it. I've experimented with using like fiberglass or composite rods and then using braid, and it always just frustrated me. I always felt like I wasn't able to shake the grass off all that well. And so I've settled on a 7.3 medium heavy graphite rod. So the line that I like to use, this is not a finesse presentation. You don't have to go light with the line. I like to use anywhere from 15 to 20 pound test fluorocarbon. Okay, 15 when I'm fishing, a little bit deeper water, wanting to get the bait a little bit deeper, and then 20 pound test if, I'm just fishing shallow and I don't need to worry about getting a little bit deeper. So, just stay with heavy fluorocarbon. I like to use Seagar, a red label for this technique. Sometimes I also use Invisex, but you can't go wrong with either of those fluorocarbon lines. And as far as the reel goes, with most of my crankbaits, I like to use a gear ratio that's in the 6 range, so like a 6.6 to 1 or something like that. But for my lipless crankbaits, it's really important to catch up with the fish and also your bait very, very quickly. So like when you rip the bait out of grass, you need to be able to pick up that slack really quick. So I like to use a 7.2 to 1. It's kind of like in the middle range. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. But that is the reel that I like to use for my lipless crankbaits. This is the FX8. It only comes in a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio. It's a really good reel for this technique, and you get it in both left and right hand versions. But another thing that I want to mention that is super important when it comes to tackle is, again, this time of year, those fish have tougher mouths, and sometimes they're not going to eat it very, very well. Sometimes they'll choke it, but sometimes they're just nipping at it or swiping at it. So changing out your hooks with premium hooks is super important. These are the Hayabusa 930s, and I use the ones that have the NRB coating on them, which is kind of like a Teflon type deal. Makes it, you know, much easier to penetrate even the toughest parts of their mouth during this time of year. So changing out the hooks, super, super critical on all of my hard baits. I harp on that topic a lot on my channel, but it is so super critical. You'd be surprised at how many more fish you will land just by using premium hooks on your hard baits. But anyways, the lipless crankbait is here to stay. It is legit and one of my favorite February baits.
What up, guys? February is here, and if you're fishing lowland reservoirs, examples in South Arkansas, East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, these shallower bodies of water, the bait that you need to have tied on during February, and it's a bait you can throw year-round, but February is when this thing starts, man, getting you some action, is the chatterbait. I have both right here, the jackhammer and the original chatterbait. I will have both of these lures tied on, and man, these are just some great lures to throw during the month of February. I'm going to talk about trailers to pick, because that's one thing that I've had a lot of people ask me is when to throw which type of trailer. So there's really two types, a swim bait style or a crawl style. Now here on this this jackhammer, I have a swim bait style, which is, this is the Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On. It's that thinner profile you see that has the swim bait action. Now I know the crawls here, I know the tail is more of the crawl style, but it is that flat, straight swim bait style trailer. So you have a swim bait style, then you have a crawl style, a wider style, such as this right here is just the Z Crawl Junior. Now this is the smaller one, I know, but you see it has that wider profile, and it could be other examples such as, you know, your beaver style baits, the Strike King Rage Bug's another popular one, or just the bigger Z Crawl style. So when you want to pick your style of trailer, okay, if you're fishing more open water and fishing, you know, you're not up there fishing specific cover such as wood, let's say open water, you're fishing your ditches, your flats, or just points, you know, like I said, you could be up near the bank, okay, but just more open water, grass can be there. The swim bait style, what it does to these chatterbaits and the jackhammer here is it gives it more action. And if you put this swim bait style on and swim it by your boat, you see this dude will just dart everywhere. And so what this does, this swim bait style, lets this dude have more action and lets it do more of its work, as you see. Now, if you're fishing specific cover, wood, for example, stumps, your laydowns, brush off the bank, you want more of a wider style, okay? This wider style, what it does is it does not let it move as much. It keeps it more straight. So if you go over that wood, it will keep it more straight, and that hook won't bend over and get into the wood. As in this right here, it's thinner, okay, and when it's in the water, as you see even right here, it's moving a little more. So that swim bait style is meant to give your bladed jig more action, and for it to be thrown, you know, around less cover, to where if you're throwing this around wood, laydowns, you know, and you don't want this thing to get hung up as much, you want that wider style right here, okay? So I just want to share that with you on, like, if you're trying to determine which trailer to throw, okay, there's you just something to think about. I kind of mentioned I love throwing this around flats. You know, if there's like I said, I really like fishing these in open water, your shallower areas where there's going to be a creek channel ditch, and I'm going to look for cover such as, you know, it could be grass, it could be stumps, wood that's out there, laydowns, shell beds is a sneaky one that I like to look for. So anyway, hey, have you a bladed jig tied on? It will catch you some fish. Now let's go hear what the next angler says.
If you're getting sick of the winter months where you live, you might want to think about loading the car up, grabbing some fishing tackle, and driving down to Florida, because February is one of my favorite times to fish in Florida. Doesn't really matter where you're at in the state. You could be down by Lake Okeechobee, or you could be up north by Lake Seminole. The point is, the bite's going to be getting good. There's going to be a lot of fish starting to move into their spawning areas, and therefore you're going to be fishing a lot of shallow, grassy type bays. One of my favorite baits to fish that are larger swimming worms. This is the Berkley Power Bait Speed Boss worm. This is the largest size. I think it's 6 3/4. This is the Magnum Speed Worm, one of my favorite swimming worms as well. I'm going to rig these on a 5/0 offset worm hook, and then I'm going to use a lightly weighted worm in this case with a 3/16 ounce unpegged Texas rigged weight. So I'm going to let that slide on my line. The way I fish these is a slow pull. I'm not generally going to cast and retrieve. I'm going to use my rod to pull the bait back in. I'm basically just letting it feather over the tops of the grass. And every time I come across a hole, I'm going to let the bait fall into the hole. And what happens is my weight's going to separate, and you're going to get a really nice, slow, tantalizing fall out of that worm as it falls into the hole. And generally speaking, this time of year, those holes are going to consist of beds, and they're going to consist of areas where fish are trying to ambush prey. So in either case, it's a high percentage type of area. So you're looking for the big spawning flats. Once you've identified them, at that point, you can grab your swimming worms and you can just slowly pull them through those areas, and you're going to generate a lot of strikes. Now, I do want to add, color can be pretty important this time of year. A lot of the lakes in Florida have that tannic color to it. So your black and blues like this Speed Boss worm can be really good. Red bugs can be really good, as well as your June bug color. June bug's almost like a cross between those two. Those are going to be some of the top colors. You can still use your green pumpkins if you want, but generally speaking, these little bit darker colors seem to work better. You can also go to smaller speed worms or your swimming worms. They come in multiple sizes. I generally prefer to go with the largest sizes, the magnum sizes. They tend to generate larger bites. But if you're looking to get just more bites and catch more fish, you might want to go with some of the smaller size swimming worms. But if you're heading down to Florida, you really need to carry with you some swimming worms and go out and just fan cast these big spawning flats, and you'll generate some bites.
And that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let us know down in the comments below what your favorite bait was from this video. Also subscribe to the Bass Fishing Declassified YouTube channel for all of our upcoming videos about February and spring bass fishing. They'll help you put a lot more big bass in the boat this year. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all next one.